When God is getting ready to elevate you, He begins with subtraction, not addition. And what He removes might shock you. It's not always the enemies, but sometimes the people you thought were your allies, the comforts you've clung to, and the crutches you've leaned on for too long. Elevation begins with isolation, and the very first thing God often removes is access. Access to people who once affirmed you, access to distractions that numbed your discernment, access to places that kept you spiritually stagnant, because the next level requires a new atmosphere, and not everyone or everything can come with you. Think of Abraham in Genesis 12:1, when God said, "Go from your country, your people, and your father's household." Because elevation demands separation, and your comfort zone is often the enemy of your calling. Next, God secretly removes false identities, the masks you wear to survive seasons you were never meant to stay in. This removal feels like rejection, but it's divine redirection, a holy exposure meant to strip you down to the core of who He created you to be, not who you've pretended to be to feel safe, because who you are at the next level must be authentic, anointed, and aligned. Then comes the pruning of pride. Yes, even the subtle kind. The pride that shows up in control issues, in comparison, in the secret belief that you don't need help. And so God will allow certain plans to fail, certain doors to close, and certain efforts to fall flat, not to punish you, but to humble you before He trusts you with more. Because James 4:6 reminds us that God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. And just when you think you're being punished, He removes silence. Those quiet seasons where you felt like God wasn't speaking weren't punishment, but preparation. Because when He's silent, He's often shifting things behind the scenes, training your spiritual ears to trust His whispers instead of the world's noise. Just like in 1 Kings 19, when Elijah heard God not in the earthquake or fire, but in the still, small voice. Another shocking removal is support. Not because you're unloved, but because God is forcing you to lean fully on Him, to stop depending on external validation and start standing on the unseen promises. And that's when you discover Philippians 4:13 isn't just a cute verse but a lifeline. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Lastly, God removes the old mindset, the scarcity mentality, the fear-based thinking, the what if I fail paralysis, because new levels require renewed minds. Romans 12:2 says, "Be transformed by the renewing of your mind." And that renewal doesn't come through inspiration, but through disruption, through the breaking of old thought patterns that have kept you bound, insecure, or small. And this is why everything feels like it's falling apart, when in fact, God is putting everything into place. So if you're losing people, losing plans, losing peace, don't panic. Pay attention, because what looks like loss might be the very evidence that heaven has marked you for more. And what God removes is never wasted, it's always replaced. And what He takes is nothing compared to what He's about to release. But you must let go. You must stop fighting to resurrect what God has crucified. You must stop calling delay a denial when it's actually divine protection. And if you're discerning enough to recognize what God is removing, then you'll be mature enough to handle what He's about to give. Because this elevation isn't random. It's strategic, it's spiritual, and it's sacred. So the question isn't, why is this happening to me? But what is this preparing me for? Because when God removes, He's not punishing you, He's positioning you.